This is the Horse Radio Network.
You've just landed in episode 498 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by ECOGOLD, leader in innovative saddle pads and protective horse boots. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from Brett Parbery, Australian dressage sensation, guest host on the Dressage Radio Show, and talented rider and instructor. Since 2003, Brett has racked up 9 Australian championships, competed in 3 Australian teams, and most recently has been in the final 5 for Olympic selection for the Hong Kong Olympics. This, after spending much of his youth on the Australian rodeo circuit. Today's tip is about the importance of, and often lax attitude, about rider position. But first, a word about today's sponsor, ECOGOLD. ECOGOLD is the leader in high-tech problem-solving saddle pads and horse boots. And how do they do it? Science. ECOGOLD uses different technologies and materials to solve different issues. Innovation for ECOGOLD means dumping the old-fashioned one-size-fits-all mentality. They've developed 5 different lines of saddle pads to address the most important issues for our equine athletes: friction, stability, fit, security, and comfort. And ECOGOLD knows your equipment needs to be user-friendly as well as effective, so their products are stylish and easy to care for. And they're made in their own factory in Montreal, Canada, so you can be sure the materials and workmanship are the absolute best. Ask for ECOGOLD saddle pads, protective boots, and coolers by name at your local tack store or visit them online at ecogold.ca. Now, enjoy today's tip.
Well, Brett, I know you've always got some good tips for us. This one this week I think applies to just about everybody. We all need reminding about our position, don't we?
Yeah, look, the rider's position is such an important part of dressage riding, and I just think that sometimes we overlook it as coaches, and coaches overlook the position of the rider and focus a little too much on the way the horse is going. And I think that what I've seen coming just straight back from Europe and coming back to Australia is we're probably taking our eye off the ball a little bit when it comes to the position of the rider. And I think people are also perhaps getting a little bit confused with a nice, upright, firm position as opposed to being stiff in their body and not being a part of the horse and not working with the horse. And I think, the one thing that I always put through my mind when I sit on my horse, and, it becomes nature after a while to sit up nice and balanced and straight, but at the end of the day, you always ride better when you're relaxed, and I always use the vision that I try to sit onto my tailbone. I don't try to lean back, but I try to not sit to where my back is hollow, but try and sit onto my tailbone and really have the feeling that I'm sitting in the middle of the horse, and I can take my left and my right upper leg off the horse and let it just drop down around the horse and feel like I'm on both seat bones and with both legs relaxed equally around the horse, and then having my lower leg on the girth on both sides and trying to keep that position through walk, trot, canter, half passes, piaffe, passage. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You shouldn't change. You shouldn't grip with your knees, or you shouldn't lean forward. You shouldn't tighten your back. And the more relaxed you stay, and the more you can stay in the middle, relaxed on both sides of your body, with both legs relaxed and forward, staying back, not leaning back, but just staying at the point of balance, the more naturally the position will happen for you. It's not a matter of sitting back and sitting up tall like you're in school, in class. It's more about staying back and relaxed and letting your body flow with the horse. And I always use this vision, staying back, feeling the back of the saddle, feeling my tailbone touching the back of the saddle, keeping relaxed, staying up, and then trying to keep as naturally supple as I can And I think that's about as good as I can explain it over the radio without actually showing you. But yeah, that's the sort of way I keep. That's the vision I have. And as soon as I feel tension creep into my body, whether I'm trying to do something on a young horse or whatever, I try to immediately identify it and in the next second try to relax that part of my body again. That I'm not riding off strength or tension. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? You know, that any one part of you, the tension can creep in, and you have to be very cognizant of it and constantly think about what's going on with your core muscles, don't you? And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as soon as tension creeps in, you get positional faults, crookedness. You then interfere the way the horse moves naturally. I mean, this sport is not about creating it from strength. It's about creating it from reactions and suppleness and balance. And we should ride that way. And if we're relying on strength to create something, we're not doing it properly. And the way the sport's constructed, it usually will show up in Grand Prix. If you've produced amazing movement and in a forced way, by the time you get to Grand Prix, it will come back to bite you. It has to be, through the lower levels, true to the basics, which is supple, reactive off your leg, reactive off your rein aids or your seat aids or whatever you're using. You have to create a reaction rather than a forced, strength-related aid. And usually it's when we use strength or we get tense in our body or we have resistance in our body is when we have a bad position. So the more we can stay back and stay relaxed and keep our lower leg underneath us, I always try to get people to think about keeping reference to the ground. So, you know, even though you're sitting on a horse, it doesn't allow us to lean forward or lean back beyond the balance that we would normally stand on our own 2 feet on the ground. And I always say to people, just keep a reference to the ground and how your body is positioned to the ground, and that will give you a good feeling of balance on your horse. And, so I just think that's, if people can just try and remove the tension from their body, and if they feel like they're relying on strength, and for sure, part of this, you will have to be momentarily strong in a part to try and teach your horse to do something. But there's a difference between being momentarily strong and always strong. And that's the difference. That's where the horses show it up. You know, we all have to use a moment of strength somewhere in the system to get the horse to understand it or to go through something. But then it should be back to relaxed again as a reward to the horse.
And not forgetting, of course, the breathing.
Yeah, that's right. And just stay natural. Just stay back and stay natural. It's so basic, but it's hard to do. You know, to say stay back, stay on your seat bones and stay in the middle of the horse, equal both sides, relaxed. Sounds quite easy, but it's hard to do.
over the centre of balance, and always being over the centre of balance, and remember that breathing, because if your breathing is off, then you're off everywhere. It affects the diaphragm, it affects your core muscles, and so often you hear of riders coming out of the arena, if jumping or dressage, and breathing, taking a deep breath, and they literally forgot to breathe while they were doing so. They were
the whole way. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Brett and Chris Stafford of the Dressage Radio Show. To listen to all of Brett's tips, just go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the Experts drop-down menu on the left. All of our experts are right there, alphabetized and easy to find. To hear the entire Dressage Radio Show, from which this tip was an excerpt, go to dressageradio.com and look for episode 117. You can also go to brettparbery.com, Brett with 2 T's, and you can see what Brett's up to. He has a little blog there, and you can keep track of his adventures all over the world riding dressage. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover. You can subscribe to all of the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.